Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. Let's see if I have sound. Or maybe the whole system has been shut down due to uh, what happened on Sirius Radio yesterday. I don't know. So we'll see. I'll explain that in a second. And Cha Cha will be back. Uh, any sound here? That's right. Just want to see if that's my. I'm working. Because yesterday it was we had an unbelievable show yesterday. Now, when I say unbelievable, automatically people think that I'm talking about greatness, but it could be. Yeah, I am talking about greatness, but lack of greatness could be there too. All right, we're talking. All right, Cha Cha's off, and he's getting more response than I am. So I'm wondering if we have sound. So, I mean, according to me, we do, but let's see what happens. So, Cha Cha came on the show yesterday on Sirius. Welcome aboard, everybody. Welcome aboard on a lovely Monday morning. Okay, there you go. Lovely Monday morning. And yesterday on the show, Cha Cha was amazing as the guest referee, and we need Cha Cha every week. And then Andy and I really got into it for a number of reasons. And it was the first time. You sound good, okay? It was the first time, probably in radio history, that a male-female co-host combination where one of them actually dropped the mic and walked off, and she did. Okay, she actually got so angry at me for not letting her speak, and that's been the essence of every show. Not because Andrea, God bless her, and you know how much I love Andrea. But when she does a 1 hour podcast, if it's less than 2 hours, that's pretty amazing. And but she doesn't realize that on radio there are time constraints that are really kind of strict. Okay, so. Yeah, the show was cooking. Absolutely. So the perception on her part was that I wouldn't let her talk, and we sit next to each other. So I give her hand signals, and then yesterday she followed up with her own set of hand signals to the point that, and then we had a caller who wouldn't come on the air, but who accused me of not of not letting her talk. And so I became very defensive, and I felt very bad because that would never be what I would intend to do. If anything, she is the essence of the show. She really has turned out to be. So anyway, it was very interesting. If you get a chance to listen to it on demand, please do. And when she walks off, she stuck me with the interview, and it wasn't being stuck. Brittany Gahuli, who is a writer for The Athletic and for the Washington team. And I've known Brittany. I've had her on a couple of times. So I was able to get through, but I relied on her asking 3 or 4 questions. So I had to come up with the questions, as we say, on the fly. And there you go. Yeah, that's it. Andrea's hand signals. You're absolutely right. But actually, it was one finger on two hands. So she used both hands but only one finger on each hand. Okay, that was and then she dropped them, and that's it. Put the mic down and just walked out. Walked out the front door, wound up out there. Wouldn't come in. Wouldn't come in. Fabulous. So it was TV on the radio. So good morning to you all in the chat room. Thank you all for coming in on a lovely morning with so much to say. And of course, one of the things that intrigues me is Mike Trout. And we don't even talk about Mike. We try to take Mike Trout for granted, right? As the best player overall in Major League Baseball. And according to the draft yesterday, we did a draft with the understanding that I think in fantasy baseball, we need to have a first half of the one season that ends in January, not January, in June, and the other half redraft during the All-Star game and play a second season, and then combine the first and second halves. This way, players who have a team with injury and with players that are just stinking up the joint, you won't lose interest. Okay, so we had a second half draft. Cha Cha gets the first pick, and as it turns out, it wasn't exactly a no-brainer pick. usually you think Mike Trout. Okay, that's the first pick. But then you really think about it. Who would you take as the first pick in a draft, not for next year, but for this year's second half of the season? Would you take Mike Trout or would you take Christian Yelich? That's my answer. Mike Trout or Christian Yelich as the first pick in the second half draft. That begins right after the All-Star game. And we kind of acknowledge that Mike Trout, who had his 5,000th plate appearance on Friday. And when I think of Mike Trout, even when I look at Mike Trout, the resemblance to Mickey Mantle is incredible. I think, anyway. The only difference is that Mickey was a switch hitter, and so most would you take Yelich or Trout? Cha took Trout, and we kind of questioned him on that, with Christian Yelich being statistically better than Mike Trout. But what about Mickey Mantle? Mantle and Trout, through their 5,000 plate appearances, Mickey Mantle's batting average was .314. Mike Trout was .307. Okay, not bad for Mike Trout. Mickey Mantle, 262 home runs. Mike Trout, 262 home runs. How about that, Unholy Toledo? RBIs, Mickey had 799, Trout 704. Runs scored, Mickey 929, Trout 854, and OPS, Mickey 1005 and Trout 998. So you can see the comparison, and of course it's a different game of baseball with, I think, the biggest change in baseball. Then you could say, what do you think the biggest change in baseball from the 50s and 60s until now? Okay? The biggest change. And you could say that the pitchers used to be in the 50s, if you threw 88, 89 miles an hour, forget about it, okay? You'd be a hard-throwing right-hander, all right? But now, that's a soft tosser. Anybody throwing under 90 is a soft. You could say that, but I think, the players adjust to the speeds. I think the biggest change in baseball between the 50s and the 60s, Unholy Toledo, I'd love to know what your take is. And you could say the attitude. A strikeout was an embarrassment in the 50s and 60s. Now it's not. Strikeout is just part of the game. You either hit a home run or you strike out. But I think the biggest change is the travel. Not just the slider, and the new pitches. The travel takes a toll. No question about it. The travel takes a toll. In the 50s, when you had 8 teams in the American and National League. Look, the travel wasn't that much. You didn't have the West Coast to contend with when the Brooklyn Dodgers, I'm talking about in the late 50s, before the Dodgers and the Giants moved out west, So a big deal, the travel. I think that's a big deal. There are some, and of course the money too. That's a good one, Easy. The money is important as well. So that's and even the physical comparisons. Thick, Mickey and Trout, both very thick. All right, let's throw a trivia question out at you. There have been 2 games this season where neither team had an extra base hit, and one team was involved in both games. Anybody want to guess the one team that was involved in 2 games that did not have an extra base hit? There were only 2 games all season that have not had an extra base hit, and one team was involved in both. Anybody want to take that? Yeah, the furthest west probably was Kansas City. You're right. Leonard Donaldson has that right on the head. So, and then, of course, a rookie is a rookie is a rookie. The highest batting average from rookies since 1931. Brian Reynolds. Right now, he's hitting about 355 when I last looked. And I remember some really outstanding rookie seasons. Unholy Toledo, all right? Let's just kick it back for a second. In 1950, in 1959, Willie McCovey hit 354 his rookie year. Then in 1984, Dan Gladden, Ichiro Suzuki hit 350. Wade Boggs hit 349 in 1982. So, so we really have some tremendous performance by Brian Reynolds. And now with Polanco going on the DL or the IL or whatever you want to call it, it really is. They can't take Reynolds out of the lineup. George is right on the button. I thought with Polanco and Marte in that lineup that he would have a hard time getting playing time, but you can't sit him. You just can't do it. Okay, and of course the Dodgers at home, boy, what unbelievable! They were 33-9 at home. Cincinnati Reds in 1975 had the best home record, 790 percentage. The Dodgers are at 786 right now. Cincinnati was 64-17, and then the Dodgers back in 1953 at Ebbets Field, 60-17. That was a 779. So the Dodgers really making history with all the walk-off home runs and the Hunshin Ryu and the whole deal. So there you go. The team that was involved in two games, the only two games this year that did not have an extra base hit, was the St. Louis Cardinals. St. Louis Cardinals, that's right. Antonio Oliva was a great from Minnesota. You're absolutely right. Two games, May 2nd, St. Louis against Washington, and then June 2nd, St. Louis against the Cubs. The only two games that did not have an extra base hit. Okay, Arizona, as we go around the horn now, the win Sunday couldn't have happened at a better time. They start a 3-game series with the first place Dodgers at home on Monday. And of course, the Dodgers, with their record, they're on pace to win 111 games, and they lead Major League Baseball with a 54-25 record. The Diamondbacks have lost twice as many games as they've won against National League West opponents. So this is going to be tough. They were swept by Colorado at home before they narrowly avoided a sweep to the Giants with that 3-2 win on Sunday. Christian Walker, 3 hits for Arizona. He now has extended his hitting streak to a career-high 8 games. And don't forget, Jake Lamb coming back. I don't know what's going on. And Jake Lamb once played on the team. Anybody remember the player Mike Ivy? All right? Mike Ivy. When Jake Lamb was little, Mike Ivy was a player. And does anybody know what happened to Mike Ivy when Jake Lamb went into the clubhouse? It's an interesting story. Anybody want to guess what happened to Mike Ivy when Jake Lamb went into the clubhouse for the first time? Kevin Pillar homered for the Giants, his 10th home run of the season. San Francisco was held to 4 hits, and one of the great compliments of all time was Ken Coyote, who listens to the show. Can't come in the chat room because he's, working. But he told me that he listened, and with Andrea talking about picking up Kevin Pillar, he went to pick him up, and he found that 2 minutes prior, somebody else was listening, and they picked him up, and then he hit a home run, his 10th of the year. But San Francisco held to 4 hits for the game. Ketel Marte, happy to see that he is a finalist for the All-Star game. Held out of the lineup for the second straight day, a minor groin injury that he suffered on Friday. There you go. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Absolutely. That's right. Little Lamb ate Ivy. That's what happened. Good. Well, you got that one. You guys can't put it by you. All right, I may have gotten the Cardinal question by you, but Little Lambs eat Ivy. There you go. All right. Jay, moving over to Atlanta, Camargo delivered a 2-run pinch homer in the 10th inning. So Atlanta beat Washington 4-3 for its 5th straight series win. And Mike Soroka, we saw the Mike Soroka got hit by a line drive, but he's going to be okay. For the first time since June 12th, Freddie Freeman failed to drive in a run. He had a streak of 10 games with an RBI, and that was a franchise record held by